Hey folks, it's Alex Blencarn from Bose & Cox Brokerage in Peterborough. I'm just coming at you today with a quick market update. I'm back at the kitchen table, and today we're going to be talking about the real estate market for the month of June 2022 in Peterborough. So let's start off with some highlights. So for June 2022, there were 327 listings in the residential market in Peterborough. There were 139 sales. The average price took a decline yet again, and it's coming in now at $701,341 for June 2022. And the days on market has shot up compared to last year. We're now at, on average, 22 days on market. So a little comparison here from last year. Sales are down 43% from June 2021. And days on market have shot up 75% compared to June 2021. And I'm just going to check my notes here to make sure I'm completely accurate. We saw a decline of about $45,000 in the average price compared to May 2022. So just a month ago. There were 335 listings a month ago in May 2022. There were 183 sales. So sales are down about 50 sales for the month, and listings have only declined by 8. So there were 327 in June and 335 in May. So that means that the listings have only, fallen by 8. So it's really, about the same amount of listings, but the sales have dropped by 50 sales. So we've had 50 less sales. That means that there's more inventory on the market than what is moving in the market. The average price again dropped by about $45,000. We had $745 in May, and we've finished with $701 in June. All right, so now let's kind of break it down by neighborhood. So let's start off with the central part of Peterborough. The central part of Peterborough actually had a crazy amount of activity compared to last month. So there were 65 listings and there were 31 sales in the central part of Peterborough. And the average price shot up. It's now at $620. $521 was the average price. That's up 18% from last year. The listings are up 38%, but sales again have fallen from last year. This is kind of a consistent theme that we've seen when comparing June 2021 to June 2022. And days on market have also gone up. They are up 35%, now sitting at 19 days on market. Next, let's talk about the East End of Peterborough. This is my favorite part. This is where I reside. I love the east part of Peterborough. Again, we didn't see a whole lot of activity for June. There were 20 listings and 10 sales. That's down, listing side, it's down 23% from last year. Sales side, you're down 44% from last year. The average price, it still kind of comes in at that middle ground, at $637, $790 for June. But again, that's down as well, 8%. So the houses in the east part of Peterborough have declined 8% year over year. Average days on market, that's gone up as well compared to last year, fairly typical. It's now sitting at 20 days on market. But yeah, we haven't seen a lot of activity really for the east part of Peterborough. Now, still, we are continuing to see that hierarchy of neighborhoods reflected in the price. You've kind of got your West End at the most expensive. Then you've got the North End, East End, Central Peterborough, and the southern part of Peterborough. And that's kind of reflected in the price hierarchy. Speaking of which, let's talk about the North End. What a crazy change from last month. So let me give you some figures from last month about the north part of Peterborough. So the average price in the North End in May was $751,924. So almost $752 for the average price. There were 59 listings, 30 sales, and the days on market on average were 15 days on market. Compare that to a month later. Now, the average price is at $649. So it's almost come down about $100,000 in a month for average price. In terms of the number of listings, they're fairly similar to last month. We've got 51 listings compared to 59 in May. Number of sales have been cut in half. We're sitting at 18 sales for the month of June in the North End, and there were 30 sales in the month of May for the North End of Peterborough. And then finally, let's talk about days on market. This was crazy. 45 days on market on average for the North End of Peterborough. This is up 246% from last year. And it's an extra month compared to last month. Last month in May, they were selling on average in 15 days. Now they're selling on average in 45 days. This is something to watch. You know, it's crazy that the amount of inventory in the North End and how slowly it's moving. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. We'll watch that, week by week and month by month to see how and if that trend continues. Now let's talk about the South End. So the South End of Peterborough, they didn't have a lot of action here at all. We had 21 listings. That's down about 12.5% from last year, and only 7 sales. So only 7 sales in the South End of Peterborough for June 2022. That's down about 68% from last year. The average price is also down year over year. So you're at $556,500 for average price year over year. And the days on market are at 15. So that's gone up about 66% from last year. And now let's talk about the beautiful, beautiful West End of Peterborough. Again, arguably the most desirable part of Peterborough. We saw a lot of activity there. 69 listings in the West End of Peterborough. That's up about 43% from last year. But the number of sales dropped almost by 50%. So they dropped by 47% to 25 sales for the month of June. So a slow moving month, although there's been a lot of listings in the West End. There's not as many sales. So again, product is not moving as quickly or as frequently as it did last year. The average price is still up. It's up about 11.5% to $759,126. So just around that $760 range for average price in the West End. And the days on market are down. So they're moving faster. They're just not moving as frequently. So the days on market are at 11 days on market, and that's down about 26% from last year. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. This is on everybody's mind. We've now seen another decrease, another month of the average price coming down. And obviously it had to come down. It was getting a bit crazy in February, and it's come down. The Bank of Canada has decided to raise interest rates. This tends to be one of the biggest changes from February to now June. So on July 17th, there is a meeting with the Bank of Canada, and there's a potential interest rate raise of 75 basis points or 0.75%. So what does that mean for a person who is buying a home? Well, let me give you a quick example. So I was looking online and I got some basic information about a 5-year fixed term mortgage from TD Bank. So they advertise their 5-year fixed rate mortgage, meaning you stay at that rate for 5 years, and that is the length of your term. Amortization can be 25, 30 years, so that's the or less. That's the amount of time that you pay off the loan. But the term is the amount of time that you're paying off that loan, for example, at a certain interest rate. So their 5-year fixed rate mortgage was sitting at 5.25%. So you'd be paying 5.25% interest on that 5-year fixed rate loan. The reason I bring this up is I have a client who got a fixed rate with TD back in mid-May, and their fixed rate was at 4.33%. Now it's at 5.25%. So what does that mean for somebody who's looking to buy the house? Well, if you're buying, let's say you've got a $400,000 loan and you're buying at that 4.33% that you were able to lock in May, your monthly payment is $1,977 per month roughly. Fast forward now, if you were to get that same 5-year fixed rate mortgage at the same bank in July 5th to be exact, your monthly payment would be $2,194 per month. So your monthly payment has gone up $200 per month. And you know what? Maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're trying to budget and you're trying to create a successful budget so that you're going to have money to save, have money to invest, and have some money to play around with. Let's say your fixed costs will be about 60% of your monthly paycheck or your biweekly paycheck if you're on a fixed income. Raising that by $200, that changes the game. Let's say, for example, you're making $2,500 biweekly. That extra $200 has got to come from somewhere, and it's not coming from your employer. They're not going to give you an extra $200 because your fixed rate mortgage has gone up. They're not going to do that. So it has to come from somewhere, and it's hurting these consumers. And my opinion is that people are not buying because these interest rates are going up. They're hearing the loom and doom in the news media that real estate's going down, real estate's going to crash, we're heading into a recession, don't buy now. It costs more to borrow than it did, let's say 3 months ago. And all of that may or may not be correct. It's impossible to predict the future. The news outlets tend to try their best to do that, but it's impossible. Nobody can predict what's going to happen in the future. But they are right in one sense. The interest rates are rising, and it does cost more to borrow money and purchase a house. So, is that what is deterring people from buying these homes? And when should I buy? Is it a good time to buy a house? Well, let's talk. That's everybody's mind. Everybody's mind is now a good time to buy a house. Well, it completely depends on your situation. Completely. That's my answer. It completely depends on your situation. It depends on your situation. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on your goals. It depends on your future. It depends on your risk tolerance. It depends on a ton of things, whether or not you should buy right now. So let's talk about situation, for example. Let's say, for example, you're trying to buy a house, and maybe in 6 months, a year's time, you're trying to either buy and sell and cash out on that equity that you earned, or you're trying to buy and then in 6 months and a year, you're trying to refinance to maybe go and buy another property. Well, then it wouldn't necessarily be the best time to buy right now, to be completely honest. Although population is, set to increase over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, of Ontario, especially with the green belt and the restrictions around building and restrictions around land use, we are going to see population drive to these urban centers like Peterborough, like the GTA, like it has over the course of this COVID-19 pandemic. However, if you're looking to buy now and sell in 6 months to a year, you've got to have a pretty high tolerance for risk. There is no one on the planet that is able to predict what your house will be worth in 6 months. Now, on the flip side of the coin, if you're hoping to buy a house and live in it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, if you're buying a house and you just got a new job in town, or maybe on the outskirts of town, and you're hoping to stay here for a while. You're hoping to live in the city, enjoy everything the city has to offer for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Then you know what? It might not be that bad of a time to buy. It comes down to your risk tolerance. It comes down to your financial situation. But if you're comfortable now buying a home for, let's say, $500, and maybe in December, it's worth $425. Maybe in February, it's worth $440. And you see, that somebody could get the same house, maybe a neighbor could get the exact same house for less money than you purchased it now. Again, that loss is only on paper. If you're hoping to stay there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it doesn't matter. It's likely, based historically on the data, it's likely going to increase over those 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And your house value, this is something that people should really understand, that the value of your house only really matters if you're buying, if you're selling, or if you're refinancing. You see, real estate is such an interesting asset because unlike the equity market, unlike the stock market, when you go into your phone, you can refresh it and see what the balance of your investments are at any given time. The real estate market is different. It tends to be a bit of a lagging indicator in terms of economic growth because of that. So it tends to be, a little bit behind the stock market, a little bit behind the equity market, because you can't refresh your phone and see the value of your house. It doesn't change minute by minute like the stock market does. So again, is it a good time to buy? It absolutely depends. If you're interested in getting together, we can absolutely get together and talk about your risk tolerance, your financial situation, your goals, your financial goals, and what you're hoping to do and gain by purchasing that house. If you're interested, please let me know, and I'm looking forward to talking with you guys again next month. I hope you guys have an awesome month of July, and I'll see you guys again in August. Take care.